Here's a comment from commenter Corridon on the Stranger's blog, Slog. Dear Mr. Plouffe, David Frum recently observed when Robert Gibbs said the people who donated and volunteered for Obama in 2008 needed to be drug tested, that Republican politicians fear the GOP base, Democratic politicians hate the Democratic base. Frum's clearly right. Look at all the promises broken, restoring civil rights, closing Gitmo, or flat out ignore, repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So what's it going to take to engender a little fear of the base and Democratic politicians? For my part, the simple answer is no. No more money for the Democratic Party or Obama, no more volunteering for anything but issue advocacy groups who can be trusted not to sell me out like Obama has. Tell me why I'm wrong, David Plouffe. Show me that Democrats do in fact respect and even fear the people they supposedly represent. Convince me that you don't hold me in contempt. I doubt you can.
Well, I'm not going to get into the fear or contempt part of that. Here's what I would simply say to people who supported us in 08. The president was very clear over 700 straight days what he was going to try and do. He was going to try and, for the first time ever after 100 years, to try and pass comprehensive health reform. That's going to make a difference in the lives of tens of millions of Americans. And against all odds, and against all political winds, he did that. To try and focus economic decisions on the middle class and people trying to get in the middle class. And obviously we inherited an economic situation only rivaled by the Great Depression. And had the president not done the Recovery Act, the assistance for the automotive industry, by the way, things that were politically deeply unpopular. That's leadership. And it's been lacking in this country for a long time. And he did it because he thought that those communities, those workers, those families, we couldn't afford that kind of economic calamity. He said he was going to focus on trying to make education more affordable. And we have groundbreaking student loans reform that moves the monies from the banks to students. He promised he was going to end the war in Iraq, and he's done that. Don't ask, don't tell. Hopefully there's going to be a Senate vote soon. And I understand on civil rights it's hard to be patient, but it's moving along, and I think we're finally going to accomplish that, and that's a very, very big deal. He promised to try and repair our relationships with the rest of the world, not so we can just win a popularity contest, but so we can solve common problems. Think big on things like nuclear weapons, and we're on a pathway for huge progress to the eventual elimination of nuclear weapons. Those are a lot of great things going on here, and tying it all together was at the heart of his candidacy was, as he said in his inaugural address, the time for childish things is over. We have to be willing to do tough things, to look beyond the next election to the next generation. And I can't tell you how hard that is to do in this political environment, where everything is viewed in Washington, D.C. through the prism of short-term politics and polls. Healthcare, by the way, the healthcare plan in the past, we all have our own view of it, was very similar to what he proposed in the campaign. And it's going to provide enormous economic benefit, and healthcare and the morality of healthcare coverage is now going to be in place in this country. I think after we lost that special election in Massachusetts and won below 60, a lot of people in our party wanted to run for the hills. Because that's, they gave it a good try, but too hard now. The politics have gotten more difficult. And that's the proudest thing, I'm most proud about the president's leadership, because he has a longer term horizon. So I would say, I proudly could go out there without talking about the opposition and say, have we done everything we said? No. Have we done a lot, and have we tried to do what we said we were going to do? Yes. But we do have opponents too. And as Mayor White of Boston used to say, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And there's big stakes in this election and big differences. And the leadership the president has provided, I think, is going to make a profound difference in a positive way for the country for a long time. It's going to make us a more equitable country, a stronger country. We are going to have better relations with the rest of the world that allow us to cooperate and solve problems. So I understand people's frustration. We're all impatient for the kind of progress and change we want. But it is remarkable, particularly when, for the last over a year, right, the whole political coverage has been, wow, Democrats are going to have a tough election, polls are tough. To continue to say, you know what, I'm going to kind of put that aside, and I'm just going to focus on progress, even when it's hard, even when it's tough, that's really, really important. And it's something that I would encourage people to say, well, just focus on that a little bit, and remind yourself of the things he talked about in the campaign each and every day. And he's really been consistent.